All right, welcome everyone. This is a Viper Professional Training and Support webinar. Today's date is January 7th, 2019. This is a Monday night webinar, and the title of tonight's webinar is Using Auto Trails and Initial Stops with Object Trader. And as everyone knows that's been to our webinars or our live trading room, everything that we say and do at Viper Trading Systems is for educational purposes only. Futures trading, Forex trading, any kind of financial instruments trading involves risk. Therefore, there's always risk of loss. You should only trade discretionary capital, and that is money that you can afford to lose. Nothing said in this webinar, other webinars we have, our live trading room, or anything else should never be construed as trading or investment advice. And as always, everyone does trade at their own sole discretion. Any questions on the disclaimer? All right, I don't see any, so let's go ahead and get started. By the way, just real quick, I'm going to go over a couple of things that I did on a identified swing webinar so everybody will be comfortable with it. Okay. What I personally look at, and I think it works out quite well when you're trading on a daily basis, is you want to look to your left always. Okay. And for this purpose right here, I'm going to use the Lightning 3 just so it's easier to see. Okay. But you've got 4 different trends that are on your chart. Okay, the most important one is this one right here because it's the one that determines which direction you're going to be heading. Okay, so what I like to personally look at is I like to look at my swings, my high, my low, my higher high, that establishes that swing. Then I get a high, a low, same high basically, maybe a tick higher, so that doesn't establish that swing. Okay, then I get a high, a low, and a much higher high. That establishes this swing right here. Okay, so this is my primary swing. This is my left secondary swing. Left primary, left secondary. Okay, and then I look to the right to trade the left. And right now we don't have Lightning 3, so on the right side of the chart we are heading down at this time, but we haven't taken out our primary or our secondary. So what I always do is draw my lines on my chart like so, and then I'm pretty much ready to trade. Okay, it basically gets about that easy. Okay, so for instance, if you hadn't shorted this, like let's say if it broke a trend line and you might have gotten you a quick short or whatever, we don't know what the mid band looks like and things like that. So, you know, you could have possibly shorted this up here. It depends on if a trend line could have been drawn correctly and gotten a quick short. But overall, though, you want to stay with the overall trend. Okay. Now, like I said, I like to look at primary and I like to look at secondary. Okay. Especially if they're not that far apart. Okay. So to me, this would continue in an upward move if it doesn't take out this swing. It could take out this one, you know, since they barely identified this, even though it's still identified by about 10 ticks, this is really not super identified. This is identified. Remember A, B, C. Okay. So I look at that swing and I look at that swing. Okay. Now, what we're going to talk about tonight mostly is using auto trails and your initial stop. Okay. Now, your initial stop, depending on where you get in, you know, you're going to want to set your stop accordingly to where you get in. For instance, if I take a phantom type trade, rather than a mid-band trade, I can have, you know, quite a bit tighter stop than if I happen to go in with a mid-band trade and then my swing's way down at like a phantom. Okay, because you can get stopped out like that. Okay, so let's see what the overall is looking like, and we'll see if we can get a trade. Okay, first off, does everybody see right now that you would basically be looking for what type of trade? You'd still be looking for longs, right? And you'll be able to tell that also with our software because here's the actual chart, I think anyway. Let me make sure I got my chart behind this thing. Bear with me 1 second. Not back there, so let me get it back there. Let's see, CL, there it is. All right, this is the overall chart right here. So you can clearly see if you drew on your chart we drew that from earlier. This is the exact same chart. Okay. That's my lightning 3. So I have a secondary and I have a primary and I have a primary again. So my secondary is right here. So I draw my lines. Okay. Let's change this to a darker color so we can see it real easily. Okay. Now I'm pretty much ready to trade this unless it takes out, this secondary swing and very possibly starts heading down, because notice that I have not had a phantom yet. Okay. I have had a mid-band trade. I've had, predictor type trades pretty close to mid-band, and we're looking for a retracement as we speak right now. So what you would do as a trader, you would actually be ready to basically set up your chart for the next trade. Okay. Now we don't know if it's going to go this deep or maybe a few ticks above it and pop up, or if it's going to go all the way down here and bounce. We don't know that. So we're going to just use Object Trader the way we normally do. And let's see, you have a thrust, retrace. So really you could draw a trend line there, couldn't you? So we could actually use wedge, something like that. And then we're going to keep moving wedge or even draw a box if we happen to keep going any lower. Okay. So let's see what we actually get on this. This is like 3 o'clock in the morning, so I don't trade this time of morning. I think that's more fair to, do it in times that, I get up around 5:30ish, right in that area, sometimes 6. And I like to look for trades then. I definitely don't get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Got to have my beauty sleep somewhat. All right, let's see what we got here. Let's let this thing just do its thing for a few minutes. So we have a high, a low, a lower high, lower low. So this is my primary swing. This is technically secondary, but see, it never closed below the other one. So this is just a primary swing right here. Primary swing. High, low, lower high, lower low. Lower high, not lower low. So that's my primary swing. Okay, so let's see if this thing's going to just bust up. Now, if it does, I'm going to go ahead and take it only if it thrusts up and pulls back and kisses. I'm not going to take a breakout that's only got that little bit to go. Okay, now, when you put in your initial stop, in Object Trader, we basically got our initial stop set at 15. Some people go in and set theirs at 10 or 12. You got to be careful with too tight because 2 bars is not that much. Okay. But then again, with like 3 contracts, 2 bars is $320. Okay. So when you go into your strategy, if you want to, you can actually change these stops to where you want them to be. See, this stop is set at 15 right here, and you can change that to 12. Now notice it's all grayed out right now, so I can't do it right now. But if I just simply change this to disabled like so, then I can actually change that. Okay. Now I leave mine pretty much at this 15 at all times, but then I move it because everything's movable on Object Trader. And you can set your targets and everything any way you want them. And remember, you can also set up templates too. Okay. So if you do want to have a chart where you just want to scalp, maybe you want 2 charts and you want to scalp oil, for 10 ticks and then do something on a larger scale on another chart. You can do things like that too, just have different templates made up. Okay, so we'll leave this at what it is because this is pretty much what I leave mine at. We'll go ahead and put it back on and we'll see if we can get a trade. Now, right now, so far, you're still heading down, right? So we're not really looking for our longs just yet, but we will keep, boxing it in and drawing our trend line tighter and things like that, unless we happen to get down to an area where it should really bounce. Okay, like, for instance, if it gets a deeper type probe setup or even a phantom, then we'll be looking for that for sure. Okay, still not going to just take a breakout. I'm trying to get a retracement on this trade. Wouldn't you know, I picked 3 o'clock in the morning. It's pretty slow. Okay, we did get a little power meter went red, so it definitely is trying to still track down, isn't it? Okay, let's draw. That's our secondary swing, and this is our primary swing right here. Primary, secondary. Okay, now, right now, could you see that you could actually, be ready to box this in? Anybody? Now, let me slow this down just a little bit, because where would you really want to box this in? Anybody? You got to be careful just getting wicked into things, especially if they're going to go south on you at all. And you can do that with, yeah, for instance, like you could use power meter, you could use stealth. That'd be a little late to me, but you can also look at resistance areas. You got resistance right across here, say here, and even here. See it looking to the left to trade the right. So, that would be a little bit better as far as getting up here or here. So I would probably do that one. Now, like I said, I wouldn't have done this breakout because it was too close, but we still headed down, so we're okay. So let's see if we can get a trade. It's still heading down so far, isn't it? Now, if it breaks, if it goes ahead and breaks this right here and comes down to like phantom, and I take a phantom, if it hits its head here, I'll go ahead and, take the profit off just in case it's breaking down. See if we can get something. And let's go ahead and set a region up. We could do a region. And I'll go ahead and get it out of the way for right now. Pretty much there's resistance right there too. Because see, so far we're still heading down. There's not really a reason to jump in this just yet. Now that did bounce off this support. So if you took that, for instance, but I forgot to turn that on, that's okay. We'll still wait. We're still stair-stepping the opposite direction, and we got a red stealth. This may change trends. So far, it's just testing support. Now, if you did happen to take that predictor, you might have gotten a scalp. That's true. Okay, see, you're still stair-stepping down so far. A little bit of resistance right across there. Still stair-stepping so far, though, so you've got lightning heading down so far. You can draw it if you don't see it. Let me draw it for you if you don't see it. See there? That's still stair-stepping down. Now you got resistance right here. Let's go ahead and put it above that. That would be lightning back to the upside if it takes that out. This might be a phantom. First time in after a trend change. We'll see. So we're going to do long outside if it happens to break. That's a phantom. Now, notice that I just jumped into that one. Now, if you jump into a phantom like that, see where my support is right here? That really shouldn't take that out. See, and it didn't. Okay? Now I could probably put my stop right across here. Everybody see how I diagnosed that in real time to get that trade? Okay? That's what you want to do. You've got to kind of look at your chart as it's moving. Okay? See how that was stair-stepping, stair-stepping, stair-stepping? Well, it hit my phantom, so I'm ready. More than likely on with two contracts, I would have probably waited for it to at least close above that line 2. Okay, but I like it when it gets down close to line 1 because you can put a pretty tight stop on it. Okay, now let's talk about the initial stop again. Now, if you get in at a phantom, if it's under line 2, between line 2 and 1, you really want to put your stop just like right in the middle of this phantom area, or even at line 0. Now, keep in mind that's like 14 ticks from where we got in. Okay, I find that very seldom will they come into this area. It's just almost like clockwork that they'll bounce off that line 1 or between line 1 and line 2. So I will usually put mine somewhere in the middle of it, even as my initial stop. Okay, now as soon as this makes lightning, keep in mind we've already taken profit on 1. Okay, now we're going to talk about trailing the stop. Where could you trail this stop? Anybody? See your little high, your low? Not quite. It's a little bit higher high by only 1 tick. Let's see if this bar closes up. If it closes up, then you can pretty much trust that swing right there with exit on close. I don't usually like to just do it where it just touches it. So see, I'm protected on this trade totally now. I've got $290 profit in it. Okay, and I've got my stop just under the swing. Everybody see how you can do that? And then you can just ride your trade based on the swings themselves until it gives up the ghost and no longer does what you're thinking it will do. You get a high, a low, a lower high, and a lower low, and you'll more than likely want to take it out. Okay, so let's see what this actually does. We'll just get this out of the way. We don't know where it's going, but we do know we got a stop in, so we're good to go. Okay, if we had more in this, and by the way, you could even, if you decided, see where that's trying to go above that swing, you can add 1 if that bar closes above that swing. Just be careful when you do it. Okay, like, see, I just did that because it's already going above that swing. And I'd still stay with that nice tight stop right there. Okay. And the reason for that is because basically you can clearly see, like even on a little bit larger thrust, retrace, thrust, that's pretty much taking out that swing right there, isn't it? So we expect this more than likely to go up into this area right here, probably. Okay. You like that way of entering? See, that way you don't just get wicked into something, because if this is stair stepping down, you don't want this little wicked area right here. That's the type of stuff that'll eat your lunch, because your primary swing on the left was here, and then you had a thrust down, you had an ABC, and then it started stair stepping down again. That's your little fake that they like to do to you right there. And you got to be real careful of it. And what I like to do normally is I'll look at my resistance areas and not even take it until it takes them out. Look at your high, your low, your lower high, your lower low, where your box is. Don't let them just wick you in with 4 ticks, because if you get in the habit of doing more than 1 contract, getting wicked in and then taking all the way down to phantom, that could cost you literally, a $300 bill or better. And you might have even shorted it thinking it was heading down, and then all of a sudden it bounces off our phantom. Okay. So try to do it more that way. And by the way, you can also even, this is more hindsight right here, but you can clearly see you could have done it. See where this did this right here, thrust retrace, you could have drawn your trend line more like that once you got that little bip. That you have to have a, where you can get 2 points on your line at least so you can draw it. Okay. Now, what if you decided, what, I might want a contract right here on top of this box? Well, you could do that. You could set this for, like, say, touch plus 2, and if it gets within 2 ticks of the top of that box, that should actually, if it goes 1 more tick up, so you added a contract. See how that does? We designed this thing pretty well. Now, keep in mind that now I got 3 contracts, so if I go 10 ticks down, I just gave away my $300. Okay? So that little swing has to hold, or I would be stopped out. Okay? Now, if you miss this entry, everybody's got to see, basically where your next entry is, but you got to get a thrust first. Okay. Wow, we might get stopped out. We'll see. We'll see. So far, not. Mid-band's holding. Let's see where our little swing is right there. Now, keep in mind that even Lightning 1 won't draw this little bitty swing, but I still see that swing right there because I had a candle down, a candle up, and it made a little low there. Now, that's usually pretty tight, but if you're right at the first of a trade starting, you want to keep pretty tight, okay? Because if the trade is going to run, you're going to find out pretty soon, and it should start stair-stepping, okay? Now, what if you weren't in this trade at all right now? Anybody? Well, could you actually, if you look here, okay, you've got a swing here. They basically have come up here and tried to test that. I'd probably think if they broke up, they'd test up in here. But if you were to box this now, let's say that you weren't even in a trade. Okay, see the swing right here? Thrust, retrace, thrust. You could box it right there if it comes out of the top of that box. And let's just do it and let's just see if it works. Now keep in mind I gave up some of my money. I wouldn't have more than likely done that because it didn't take out my swing. But let's see if it does anything for us or if they head this thing back down. Okay, we're in 2 again. See how I looked at the left, traded the right. Now I'm going to put my stop just under mid-band. There we go. Okay, now what if you had missed this trade entirely though? Okay, now tonight is more about stops and trail stops than entries, but you notice that you have a high, a low, and a higher high. So you have basically, like this swing here, this one here, this one here, this one here, and this one here. Primary, secondary. Okay, now if I was in, let's say I was in, I don't know, let's say I was in a total of like 3. Well, I'd want to probably take off 2 if this happens to close below here, just in case. And I could actually even turn on sniper and protect that by hitting this like this and saying, okay, if it closes below that swing right there, I could take 2 off the table. Okay, now notice if we're going to head up, we should get a higher low. See there? Trying anyway, might not. We'll find out. Still okay so far. Now what I would normally do is put it right here like this because that's actually your support right there. And see how I quickly click that so that I could protect this trade like that. Now keep in mind, I just kind of jumped in some contracts. So, you might not want to do it quite that aggressively. But you can clearly see that you broke trend lines. You came above mid-band. You clearly started your little box down here. When did this trade actually trigger down here? Anybody? Let's diagnose it and let's look at it. All right, you had a candle down, candle up, candle down. So that was basically a little box, candle down. So now you had a high, a low, and a higher high on that candle right there. So that was pretty much where you would enter that trade right there on that bar. Okay. Whoop, moved my sniper. Sorry about that. Get it back on. Okay. Now, since tonight is more about the trail stops and everything, in the room, we always talk about a loose stop and a tight stop. Okay. Now, a loose stop would literally be, even on this trade right here, underneath this swing right here. That would be a loose stop because I'm looking not so much at mid-band, I'm looking at the swing, but it happens to be at mid-band. Now, if I don't want to let it go that low because of the fact you've got like 3 contracts on, you don't have to go with that swing. You go with this one. Okay, but keep in mind that more than likely, a lot of times you're going to get stopped out with what we call a primary swing on the left, especially on the Lightning 1. Okay, let's see where this thing goes. They're going to test that line I've got drawn, it looks like. Whoa. See how that does? See how that kissed right on top of that? Whoa, look at that. That just turned into a monster day, and that was at 4 o'clock in the morning. Okay? So basically, if you did that, you could be nicely green and turn off the machine because we just nailed our targets. And I'm not sure exactly what happened as far as news or something, but they really jumped that thing up there. So now what do we got to do? Anybody? Well, we would have to wait for what? A pullback? And it looks like you've actually almost already had a pullback. So we're going to see if we can get another trade. All right, let's go ahead and take our lightning off our chart. Take our lightning off. Whoops, wrong one. All right. And let's just see what transpires here and what we might get. Now keep in mind that if you already got out of that trade, you cannot get back in it here. If you go too tight, it's almost like being afraid to make a trade right. Exactly, because see, we got in way down here. And if a person would have put their stop like with chart traders, see how that wicked my line? Now, how did we know that was going to do that? Because it thrust up above it and pulled back and kissed it. Okay, they do that a lot. Now, does it do it 100% of the time? No. Okay, so now that this is thrusted, we cannot take this trade up here. Now, if you did want to take this trade up here, this is the way I would recommend doing it. All right, let's just say that that gets broken, and that's a wedge, not a sniper. And I was to go like one contract if that was to go above that line. I'm only got to here, so I would say this would have to continue going up. And that's what you got to be careful of because they won't do that. You know, as a rule, this is going to wick you in, it'll pull back and test support, and then it might take off. You see that quite a bit. So I would not do this trade right here, okay, because you've only got to here. Okay, now if they happen to come down and test like on top of here, or even don't take out this swing and bounce, I would probably do it. But I'm not going to just buy it willy-nilly here. It would have to check here, which is near mid-band, or it'd have to bounce off this predictor. Okay, so let's see if anything like that happens. If it doesn't, we'll get it later. Okay, now I would put a pretty tight stop on that. Okay, see why I did that? It just kissed support. And they'll test support quite a bit with these one range. And I would probably go ahead and add one more if it bounces and put my stop nice and tight with exit on close and see if we head up. See, so if you draw on you look at that, we did it. We did it. So see, don't chase it way up here when it's already done a thrust. You got to at least come down to a support level. Okay? Now let me ask a quick question. With this already doing this lightning 3 right here, now we haven't identified it yet. It looks like it's going to, though. If it identifies this lightning swing, is this a good phantom down here? Anybody? I would say more than likely not, because it would be breaking lightning 3. I'll draw lightning 3 and you'll see what I'm talking about. See, there's your swing right there. Now, it hadn't identified it very much, so I'm not considering this a swing just yet until it takes this out by, I'd say, probably at least 7, 8, 10 ticks. Okay. Now, of course, we would trail our stop just underneath these swings. See your primary swing, your secondary swing. Primary, secondary. If it takes us out, it takes us out. Looks like it's going to get us. There's your primary. This is a very light primary. This is a little bit better swing here, but this did do a little thrust, retrace, thrust. So see how it held? And if they got us, okay? So now what are we looking for, everyone? We're looking for a bounce off of support or mid-band type trade. Could be very possible, right? So let's see if we can get something like that. Now remember, we're not chasing it here, right? It's too late. We just got taken out, so we got to wait for a retrace. Let's see here. Lightning 3 and Lightning 2, are they going to be the same? No, Sal, on your question, Lightning 2 is strictly looking at 4 range bars, and it's looking at least 2 swing strengths. Your Lightning 3 is looking for 15 swing strengths. So this is a lot more indicating of how your trend is going. Okay. For instance, if you were to take this out right here, right there, this is no longer heading up. Okay, because see how you have a high, a low, and a higher high. So if they take this out, they're not going to be heading up. So would this phantom be a legitimate phantom? And the answer would be not, unless you boxed it, because it would be going below here. Now, would it work? Well, it's a possibility. But the thing about phantoms is that if they take out this Lightning 3 swing, I don't trust phantoms. Now, I'm going to show you some trades from earlier today that I called on Russell and also on ES, and they fit the criteria perfectly. And that's why they were called. Okay, well, I think we just missed a little popper on a predictor, but not yet. It's got to start stair stepping back up, right? Let's fast forward this a little bit and see. Okay, so now you have thrust, retrace, thrust, retrace, thrust, retrace. Okay, so this is your primary swing, right? This will be your, or pardon me, yeah, right now it's primary. If it closes below here, that'll be your secondary swing. Everybody sees that, right? Okay, if this closes below, this will be your primary. So that's your primary now. Well, Mindy, on your question, yeah, you could have actually shorted this right up here, because we do short at mid-band a lot, but I don't personally like just doing a mid-band type trade, just thinking I might go down here, because to give an example, this is my low that I can't take out if I'm going to continue up. Okay, if they take that out, I'm going to be looking for a short retrace. Okay, and the reason for that is you're looking to the left to trade the right. This is your lightning. Okay, now right now you had like a little double top. Sure, you could have actually drawn a trend line, something like this, and shorted this, but I don't like shorting against green backgrounds most of the time, and especially blue mid-bands. Now, if they take this out right here, I'll be looking for a short, but I'll only be looking for a short if it does what? Well, it's got to break it and retrace. Or we might get a phantom for a quick poppy, okay? If we get a phantom, we'll even take that. If it'll bounce off of this area right here, like for instance, if it just barely touches this and touches my line 2, I would probably do like a quick 10 tick. Whoops, sorry about that. I may miss this. I'll just hit it, mark it if it hits it. Now this is risky right here, because this looks like they want to take out that support. Okay, so I'm going to show a little bit more conservative, because I don't want everybody doing, more the risky type trades, because if you do a risky type trade, you got to get out of it quick if it goes against you, especially if you jump in a couple of contracts, because you can $300 yourself to death, even with a, one upper top strip account, or even your own money as far as that goes. Now, more than likely what I would do is if this touched this line right here and then pop back above it, just barely, I would probably try one contract. We can try it if you want. It may be our first losing trade. We'll find out. Now, the conservative way to trade this would be simply look at resistance like we did earlier. Let's just do it the conservative way. And if it breaks this, we're going to be looking very possibly for shorts if it breaks it hard. All right, so if you looked at resistance, you'd basically box it like so, at least right across there where resistance is. Okay, so you could be looking for a long above that box if they happen to start stair-stepping back up. All right, now if they decide to take this into phantom, I don't like this phantom simply because it's taken out lightning 3. Now, did you notice that this phantom over here took out lightning 3, but it was not a lightning 3 that had a higher high? See this? High, low, higher, high. This had a high, low, no higher high. So if you look over here where it did have a higher high, they just barely took it out. See there? And when they do that, I don't mind it so much. All right, so we'll box this. Let's see what this gets. Still stair-stepping down so far. Still stair-stepping down. Okay, now you would be pretty much only going long above here, but this is looking like we may even change trends. So you took out the low. Okay, let's just see where this goes. You got to get a thrust and a pullback if we're going to go short. Red background. There we go. Everybody see that? We're starting to get a little pullback. Now what we're looking at is we're looking for shorts. We're going to draw a line on the chart right here and right here at midband. And we shouldn't go any higher than right across here. So I'll draw another line. Everybody see why I'm drawing these lines? So in other words, you have a thrust, retrace, thrust, retrace, thrust, retrace, thrust. So this is a swing that's identified right across here. All right. This is a swing that's identified because it took out the low, same one as here. And then this is a swing that's identified because it took out this. So here's primary swing, and here is secondary swing right here. Okay, so if they take that out, we may even head back up. Okay, but if they don't take that out, we won't be heading back up. Let's see if we can get a trade. Now keep in mind, I did this the conservative way rather than just jumping in. I saw a short happening when it was taken out mid-band and kissing it. That was pretty good to begin with, but if you get in the habit of waiting for the thrust and the pullback, you'll get a lot better trades. Let's see if we can get a pullback. Okay, so you're starting to get a low, a high, a higher low, but not a higher high yet. Now you got a higher low. Okay, does everybody see where you could start getting ready to box this thing in? All right, it's coming right to mid-band. Now, usually as a rule, I would probably, if that would tag mid-band and leave this little swing right here intact, I'd probably try for a 10 ticker. But let's do it the conservative way instead. We're going to wait for it to start stair-stepping back down. This is our primary swing. We don't have a primary swing again yet. Looking to the left, trade to right. Let's see if we get one. It's right at it. And you always, as a rule, want an ABC if you can get it. You won't always get an ABC. It looks like we should have taken that predictor. It's holding support, though. Now, if you did happen to take this one and they came down to my line of support and then they bounced, you got to get out of that trade because I'll bet they take this out. Because as a rule, you're going to do an A, B, C. You could even do like a Gartley and go all the way as high as above it. And could we be ready to take that trade? There's support. We're going to do a touch +2 and see if we can get a trade. Support right here. It did do an ABC. See how your A, your B took out the swing just by a little bit. Hadn't closed above it yet. To me, that's not too much of an ABC. There it is now for sure. And I would probably put this more than likely right here and right there for a rollover. Let's see if we get something. I wanted to tag it right there, but let's see if it, yeah, we're in. All right. Now, let me ask you a quick question. If you got this trade right here, and you got to be careful because that barely did an ABC, but it did roll over. Okay. It's going a little higher though, isn't it? Okay, swing, thrust, retrace, thrust, retrace. That's actually pretty much a swing right there. So you really want to put your stop just above here. That swing. And we're feeling some heat on it. So let's see if this actually rolls over or not. That's actually a low, a high, higher low, and a higher high unless we roll over. And by the way, if you get into a trade like this and you want to go ahead and take the coin, like if it even gives it to you once, just go in deeper. If it happens to go up like a phantom or something, you can close this trade out in a heartbeat just by hitting the button. Okay, because it looks to me like it's going to go up to here. And I'll be ready for it if it does. And we'll also be ready if it keep trucking for us. Still getting higher lows. And guess what else you could do? Absolutely. You want a little bit safer trade? Let's do it. Let's go with a wedge because I see a trend line now. Now, if it tags, moved my wedge. If it tags that line up there, I'm going to short it anyway if the bar closes down. So I'll short 1 if it tags my swing, my secondary swing, and closes the bar down. It did. See it? Tried to take the stinking thing out, didn't it? And we just got flat. Everybody see that? That's a pretty cool way to trade. By the way, we're up to 16 again. I would probably, if that takes out that trend line, go ahead and short this thing again. See how it's taking out that trend line? And I'd put my stop this time just above here, just in case this looks like it's going a little sideways. And let's redraw our trend line and add one if it happens to take that out. See what we get. See what they love to do. See how they just wicked that? We had our line drawn. We knew where it hadn't checked yet. But remember what I was saying the other night or the other day in the webinar? If it doesn't take out your secondary swing, they're usually going to head the same direction they were heading. But you can't really put your stop so tight that it's at the primary. Unless the primary is a long way. You know, like for instance, let's say this would have rolled over and shorted all the way down to here. Well, then you could trust your primary for sure. But usually it's going to do like this. Just kind of stair step around. And that's your primary, that's your secondary on the left. Okay, now let's talk about, right now, see I've got a 7-tick stop on one contract. So that's going to cost me $70 plus the close of a bar. Okay, but if I do happen to get this trend line breaking, I'll go ahead and add one. Now, if you've only got one, you pretty much just got to move your target out of the way. You got to stick with the trade. Or you're going to scalp it for 10 or 12 ticks here and there and just try some good trades like we just did. Okay? Now, this was about the time that I actually got up trading this morning. I think I got up at just a little bit before 6, got the computers on, got the coffee on, stuff like that. So this was actually, I'm pretty sure, is a trade I took earlier today. But remember where we got the one in the room too? I'll show you exactly how to set that one up also. See what this is going to do. Wicked. See it wick? They just love that, don't they? Could take us out. We'll see if it wicks it. See how if you draw your lines on your charts, those lines will hold these prices back. Come on, crude, what are you going to do? They're trying to make you think they're going to take this thing up, but they're not yet. They didn't take out your swing. There we go. We got another one. And if you wanted to, you could even add one, but be careful if you start jumping into several, because 3 contracts, if it goes against you, can really be, pretty painful. So just 2's fine. Okay. Now, what we're talking about tonight, though, is not only just the entry, but also the stops. Okay. And see, if you look back here, you can see a high, a low, a lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. Primary swing. See it? And since that's just a wick, that's your secondary right here. So if you put your stop there, you're pretty protected on this trade to actually take it for a runner. See how it's starting to stair step down? Now, if it doesn't take out the swing, it did, so we're good. Where's our primary swing now? It's right here. Now it's right. Not quite. Now it's here. It turned out to be a pretty good little trade, didn't it? Everybody see how you can totally figure out your charts if you just watch them on a daily basis? And what's your primary swing? What's your secondary swing? And keep in mind that what I'm talking about is when they're stair stepping, not if this thing just blitzes it down. You got to be careful then. You don't want to put your primary swing 40 ticks back if they happen to do 10 bars in a row. And that happens occasionally. But where's our primary swing right now? It's not identified because, see, it closed up, not down. This is not your primary. That one is right there. Now, will this become the primary? If it closes below here, it will. Yep, see there? Now, there's a typical example right there. See how that took that down with several bars like that? That's when you want to really be careful, okay? Because when they take down several bars at one time, you got to really watch it that that's pretty much the end of your trade, okay? I always like to watch it if they thrust it, and then I look for a predictor, okay? And if they do start stair stepping up at all, you could literally be out of this trade by just turning that on. And if they stair step and take your power meter, you're free and clear. So far, it's still okay. Is that your nightmare trade there, Mindy? Did you notice how I did it, though? To me, it's a better way to trade it simply because, see, we didn't really like this phantom right here. And even though it probably did do a scalp, and that would have been fine, I had the line drawn even. So you could have taken that trade right there where I had that line. But keep in mind that when it takes out this swing here, when they take this out, they're pretty much thrusting below it. They're going to come back and do some kind of a retrace. And this was a deeper retrace. But notice how it was stair stepping until you could get in the trade. Okay. Now, where I drew it was at resistance. Now, notice that I took the trade just right in through here at the time. We've added to it since then. Okay. But let's diagnose that trade again so everybody can see why that was taken like that. That's not my most favorite trade either. I thought it was going to get me. But see, you have a high, a low, a lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. So that was definitely your primary swing on the left, right? See there? And that's your secondary. So see how they tested it? And when they break support like that, usually as a rule, you're going to get something like this: a thrust, a retrace. That's what, about a 50%, maybe 61 on that thrust, and then another thrust down. Okay. Predictor is saying that you should hit your head right here. You could protect coin like that too. You know, if predictor says that's where it's going, you can protect coin, especially when they're these further down ones after they do a thrust. Okay. Let's see. David, you're still hearing, everybody's hearing audio, right? Okay, now this is getting closer to where we opened the room. Okay, so let's see. You got a predictor right there. I'd probably bring my stop to my secondary. This is actually still primary, but this is trying to do a swing. Okay, you can call that primary if you get a couple of bars down or so on these smaller moves, but it's technically not a swing until it takes out this low. See, that's your primary swing right there. Where's your secondary? What's right there or even here? See, something like that. If you want to really protect your trade, you can put your stop right there. Okay. I like to look to the left to trade the right. You know, I've taught this for years, and I feel it works pretty well. Now, let me ask you a quick question. It's now 7 o'clock in the morning. What would you as a trader do for your next trade? You'd want a retrace of some kind, right? So where would that retrace be? Anybody? Well, I've got the lines already drawn on the chart, I do believe, because it would be right in here if it retraces, probably mid-band, and we'd be looking for another trade. Let's speed this up. See, not identified yet. It's trying to identify, didn't identify it, notice that? Now it did. You put your primary right there. Anytime they come down to those further away predictors like that, there you go, we just got stopped out. Okay, now, would you be looking for a long yet, anybody? If you trade the way we teach, I don't think I would be, but I would be looking for a trade up there where that line is. And possibly even a little higher. It depends on where it hits. Let's see. If it hits its head at primary, because this just barely closed below. So this is actually primary here. This is secondary here. If they take out secondary, I'd be looking for a trade a little higher. See, they haven't checked this yet, where they kind of started breaking down. So I'd be looking for a trade in through there. And probably, this is still an uptrend, by the way, except that they did a big ABC Gartley. But I'm still looking for shorts, right, everyone? So let's do it just the way it's been taught tonight. Let's see if we can get it. So you have a thrust, retrace, thrust, retrace. So you have a primary swing here. We're going to want to at least get up to mid-band, if at all possible. Mid-band or higher on a short is best. See how that one did? Predictor, or even this swing, you could try for a scalp. If it hits its head there and rolls, you could try for a scalp. But I'd recommend if you do that you do it with like one contract. Because see, so far this is still stair-stepping up. Everybody see that? Let's see, go up to 49.09 and pull back and get in. Well, let's look at it. Let's diagnose this chart. Okay, first off, it hit right up here. You can't go any higher than this for sure, because they've already hit it. Okay, and that would be actually changing trends if they took this out. That's your lightning 3 swing. So anything under this, I'd probably be looking for a trade somewhere like this. If it comes and kisses that area right around mid-band and rolls, or you can do it based on when this actually starts stair-stepping back the other direction, if it does. Now, it could be a total trend change and we could head up. We don't know. We'll find out. Let's see if I can get it moving fast enough, but still diagnose it in real time. Swing. Not a swing yet, but maybe right here. Let's see. Now here. Now here. Now here. If it changes trends, we'll go the opposite direction, but so far it hadn't. All right, here's your swing right here. Secondary. See, and that little trade would have worked. See there? I mean, did it go very far? No. It looks like it's even going higher. I'd probably be looking at this trade right here now. What would it take to change trends on this? Anybody? Let's draw lightning 3. Have to take that out, wouldn't it? So you want to go ahead and box this and see if we can get a little trade? All right. We'll just try for like 12 ticks with a region and touch +2. See if we can get 12 ticks. Now, by the way, see how you have a high here, a low, and a lower high? If this goes ahead and breaks, you're changing lightning to red. You were real close on that, David. Very good. We had our lines drawn on our chart, though, didn't we? That's what we do in that room every day. You know, these lines are drawn on these charts. Would you actually, in a case like this, anybody, would you be looking for longs? I mean, you know, for instance, if you box this in like right here, what if they just bipped it up just barely and then rolled over? See, to me, that's still a dangerous trade, because what you want, if this is going to really head up, you want it to pop up, change the background to green, pull back and kiss somewhere in this area, even mid-band, and then head back up. See if we can get something. Okay, we just got something. I'm going to put a tight stop on it, just in case. Exit on close. And I will do one more if it happens to break this little box here. See if we can get it. Yeah, that's going back up against, we got a lower high though. Let's see if it stays with us. May get taken out of that one, that green stealth, possibly. Nope, looks like we're going to get it. See how it's starting to stair step now? I definitely protect my trade. There we go, we got it. Everybody see that? Now notice that I did that more based on conservative than aggressive. Okay. Now, would you take this trade right here, anybody? No, you'd want it to actually go, well, let's say, for instance, if you were to look at this trade right here, you would want it to, well, if you boxed it like right here, to give an example, and you happen to get it, here's what I like to do personally. If this was to break below here, I'm going to take it if it just barely touches the box. But I'm going to put a really tight stop if they happen to fake us. Because so far, see, you've got a low, high, higher, low, higher, high, higher, low again. But we're not looking for a trend change yet, right? Because we have high, low, lower, high. Okay, but on the right side of the chart, we do have stair stepping up. Mindy, on your question from earlier, though, see, we pretty much took this trade right where I drew the lines and everything, and it rolled over. Now, to me, this is riskier right here at mid-band because see how much more beautiful that trade was? And that was worth $240 on oil, 12 ticks. This, to me, is where people are probably getting messed up occasionally, is where they'll just barely come out of this box. Because, just looking at this, for instance, high, low, higher, high. If you're thinking about where this is actually going to break down again, it needs to take that 91 out, really. You see what I mean? Because so far this is still stair stepping up, but they haven't changed trends. Let's see if we get anything. We got something, but I put a tight stop on it, just above mid-band. And it looks like we're going to get taken out. Maybe, maybe not. Yep, got taken out. See why I don't like that right there? Because all you did is you got a higher low. Now, I would be looking for a phantom. See if we can get a phantom. And I'll also look for, if they happen to come down here and bounce off support with you having a high, low, higher, high, I'll actually buy this down here. But for the sake of the webinar, I don't think I will. But that's support. See it where my line's at? See, that trade would work. If you draw your support on your charts, you'll find that a lot of times it'll flat work. Okay, well, let's see. We might have another little trade here if I can get it quick enough. Nope, I didn't get it quick enough. I was going to draw a trend line. But we'll see if we can short it one more time if we get the opportunity. So we're stair stepping up our primary swing right here. Secondary swings right here. If it goes up, we'll see if we can get another primary swing. Does anybody remember? I was actually in this trade in the room this morning because I did catch this one. And remember when the market opened and this thing, I'm pretty sure this came up and didn't take out the previous swing, and we rolled that thing over. And by the way, if you're more of a conservative trader and you see something like this happening, so you could actually even draw a trend line under here even if this decides to break. That's a real conservative trade. Here's a less conservative trade, more aggressive. See, like that. And then do it as a wedge and short if it happens to take out that trend line. See if we get anything. Now I'd probably raise it again. Something like that. Bring it down again like that. Is that a long yet, anybody? That's a phantom. There you go. You just got it too. All right. But remember in the room this morning, I was just getting out of my long when it came back down through line 6 or even on top of the swing. I don't remember exactly where it was, but you can clearly see where even on a conservative basis, if they took out this trend line, they'd really be heading down, wouldn't they? So you can trade according to what you see each and every day. And by the way, this was right at the open of oil. If you got faked into a long, see it, then it took it out the bottom end of the box. A lot of our people got short right there on that box. Okay. And if you wanted to add something to that, you could actually put a box here. You've got a primary now. They're breaking. You got to be careful and see it's trying to take out the trend line. I didn't add one for some reason. I'm going to add them anyway then because it broke my trend line. So I'd definitely take that trade. Probably because it kind of smashed through it. Anybody remember that trade this morning? But do you also remember that we actually took a trade shortly after that went up? And I want to see if y'all can find the next trade, and then I'm going to wrap because I'm about 5 minutes over. All right. Could we put our stop at primary if we wanted to? Now that's pretty tight. See, primary swing, but my secondary is way up here or even here. See where you can barely see that little swing? Now that's not what I consider a swing like this one is. This is your primary swing, should hold. But let me ask a quick question. If you were trading this and you got up nicely green on this trade, what would be the next trade you'd be looking for? Midband or phantom? You need an ABC as a rule. But let me just fast forward this, and I want to see if anybody can peg the trade that we actually called and took. I'll just close this out for now. All right, so let's see. We took out primary. This is a secondary now because it's a little bit more of a swing. All right. So if it hits its head here, I'd probably go for 12 ticks. Or if it breaks my swing over here. Still heading up so far. Not taking out the swing. I think I might have just missed it. I did miss it. See it right there? Hit my line perfectly. I got this thing going at 30 times, so it was too quick. But everybody see that though? Drew my lines ahead of time, and that's exactly where it tagged. You gotta look at your swings on the left. Okay? Now, this to me is too late to jump in this trade because it's already happened. So what trade did we call in the room this morning when we saw this happen and we started getting this higher low and we had resistance right across here? We actually called this trade. Region. Long. Like that, remember? Some of our people took it down there. See when you got this higher low? Now, watch where else you can get this trade, because I also called this one too when we were in the room. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way for right now. Does anybody see where you can get in this trade again? Anybody at all? Because you're going to be able to get in this trade again, I can tell you that. Watch and see. See where this line is right here? That broke resistance on the left. Do you think that it'll more than likely come right back down there and tag that and give you another entry? Probably is going to touch my line, actually. Let's see if it does. Thrust, pullback, I'll bet you. Let's see if it does. There it is. Remember when I said this morning in the room that I wanted that trade when it thrust up and pulled back? Now you can protect your trade just right underneath that swing here. That's your primary swing. It's kind of tight. Now if you get a higher low, we should be okay. See it so far? Pretty amazing the way they love to chop around a 4-range bar though, isn't it? Does anybody remember that trade in the room this morning? Because this particular trade, now what if you missed this trade absolutely entirely? Is there other areas to get in? Yeah, there's other areas to get in. There was a predictor, see it? Now I've got this going way too fast to trade 500 times. But where's another trade? Anybody? How about a yellow bar probe? when can you actually take a yellow bar probe and make sure that it doesn't just wick you in? Well, usually what I like to do is I like to get in at mid-band if at all possible with like 1. Now that's a little late, okay? But you can also see a trend line drawn on your chart, like so. And if they break that trend line, you could add 1. See them breaking the trend line? And put your stop nice and tight underneath the swing just in case. And that's all you have to do. And by the way, that particular trade worked out also. I remember it in the room this morning. That was a good mid-band trade that was called. And real quick, since we're only 10 over and for some reason I'm running my webinars a little bit later, I want to show you something else too. Let's let this thing run for a minute. Watch this get a dot. There's your dot. Is this actually pretty much where this should hold? See how it's holding? See there? See how that held? Now watch Phantom start stair-stepping. If this thing, see there? See where Phantom's at now? Now let me ask you a question. If you were looking at this to get into a Phantom trade, would that be it where I called it this morning in the room? Now, I got this going really fast, so I had to grab it. Notice how that bounced right off that swing. So that turned out to be another monstrous nice trade. And that was called live in the room this morning too. And I'm pretty sure Charles even mentioned, if I remember right, that he also got in this when he boxed it in at mid-band. So I'm sure he probably did something like this, boxing in at mid-band, and waited for the little pullback and then got in. Okay, but that's how you do this, and that's also how you set your trails. Now, I didn't get too much into auto trails because I wanted to show people a little bit more of a conservative approach to this. But just remember, if you look at Lightning 3 and you see these Phantom trades set up, because they're all over the place. Let me just show you real quick. Let me grab Russell. Anybody remember that trade right there? That was after the room closed. Here's another one right here. I called that trade in the room this morning for sure. Phantom trade. And let me show you real quick why you would have taken the trade there. See how this just literally, for one thing, you had high, low, lower, high, so that is not an identified swing on Lightning 3. There's your identified swing on Lightning 3 to the left. See it? Notice how they just tested it. And then you just boxed it in and off it went. There was another one right there. So we had one here, one here. We even had this one here that was called in the room this morning. We had this yellow bar here, yellow bar here. We even called this one here when it came down to mid-band. And remember, I missed this entire short right here because I was trading oil. But you could clearly see you could get that trade too pretty easily, especially at the open, because it did get a lower high and then it broke below mid-band. And you might have been looking at a Phantom, but you never got it. Okay, so keep in mind, markets move and everything, but if you learn to see and draw on your charts and look to the left to trade the right, and also to make sure that you see on the left side of your chart always where your trades are. Wow, I did a lot of bars right back here. Always look at your primaries. Okay, look at your secondary and your primary always, and then look to the right also to see what's happening, and then what happens when it comes down and tests like your secondary, and then off it goes. That's actually just a Phantom trade right there is what it was. All right, let's see. Can we please make this recording available to non-members? Absolutely, Paul. I'll get that up there, and as a matter of fact, I'll get you some more up there too. Okay. Thanks everybody for coming today. Hope you enjoyed it. I ran it a little bit over. I do that quite often. And let's see. Mindy says there's a trade that I see where it's pink and hits mid-band and bounces up for a long, but I think there has to be higher lows. Well, Mindy, the one thing that I like to personally do, and I think it pays off pretty well, is you don't really want to short these things until you get that thrust to where you really know that it's going short, and then wait for that pullback. And sometimes you'll get a 180-degree move, but how many times do they fake other than that? All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming. I hope I didn't miss any questions, and we'll go over them in the morning if we did. All right. Thanks, everyone. See you in the morning. Bye now.